Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Sunny Side podcast. Today, I am joined by Mr. Alex Kagel. He is the CEO of Wildcard MSP. They are based in Edmonton, Canada. Alex, how are you doing, sir?
Fantastic. Thanks for inviting me, Finn. Really excited to be here for this conversation.
No worries at all, Alex. It's my pleasure. So, Alex, just for the audience and the viewers, for people that don't know about you and Wildcard, how would you kind of describe what you guys are doing and kind of who you target, and how would you give a kind of holistic overview to the viewers?
Sure. I guess we're really aiming to focus on an underserved market of small business owners, both across Alberta but also Canada, that have been traditionally locked out by IT companies before. Their business model just doesn't really support it to, support solopreneurs up to 10 user businesses. And so we kind of saw that opportunity. And um, maybe because I'm not from this industry, didn't have a lot of preconceptions or notions about what IT support or managed services needs to look like. And so coming in with a fresh perspective and really here to help, the 95% of business in Alberta that is small business.
Yeah, that's interesting. So why do you think it is that MSPs, I wouldn't say disregard small businesses, but they don't really, because obviously the majority of the MSPs that I speak to say we don't really like to target the smaller companies. So why do you think this is, Alex?
Their business model isn't set up for it. They make their money off of recurring revenue and not really providing a lot of support and service. And maybe a little bit is process maturity. Because if you're from this space and you kind of understand, if you set up the client's environment well, there really isn't a lot of support that's needed. Uh, and maybe because traditionally in this industry you're working with 20, 30-year-old companies that have kind of been had a foothold for that long, and the money is to be made when you have higher recurring revenue, which means higher user counts, and that's where they've kind of sat for at least 10 plus years. And maybe traditionally the market was different. Like there weren't as many solopreneurs, small businesses, kind of there is today. And I think they made their obviously money off of that, and now even like they are neglecting and firing their small clients because they're like, hey, you have to pay us this minimum, otherwise it doesn't make financial sense for us. So kind of seeing the inside of that and be like, well, there is a way to do this if you do proper unit economics and a cost model that makes sense for a 1 person to 10 person to 100 person business. That I guess they're also doing this all in kind of thing. It's a flat rate per user per month, and it's all in. And again, that doesn't really work for a lot of businesses. There's not a lot of value alignment in terms of understanding what they're paying for. And I think that's the biggest thing with this industry is a lot of it's like obfuscated behind these, oh, it's very technical, oh, we're doing this stuff behind the scenes, and the customers don't really know, or see exactly what they're paying for. And so our approach to further break down the managed services into an a la carte style where they know exactly what they're paying for, it makes sense to them, and it's speaking business language, not technical jargon that they don't really understand.
Yeah, absolutely. So, key takeaways is that you actually speak in English and not in IT, which is critical for a lot of smaller business owners. And yeah, it's really interesting that that market is so kind of under targeted, isn't it? Because obviously there's a massive opportunity, especially in Canada. Like Canada's majority SMBs, is that correct, or have I made that up? That is true, isn't it?
No, it's true. Yeah, it's definitely
Yeah.
growing. I mean, through COVID, it was challenging because we did see a lot of, small, like micro business, let's call them micro from the 0 to 10 range, die out, just because they didn't have a lot of that, I guess, momentum or I guess, size that they could just push through it. But it's coming back now. Like, especially post COVID, we're kind of right at the, everything is kind of catching up to where pre COVID was. And it's just a really great environment for small business owners to start their own things. I think we're also seeing this kind of accumulation of private equity and wealth that's buying up all of these little, small local businesses because that's their MO. Um, and yeah, it's just kind of opening up a spot in many, many markets for higher quality and higher service where kind of these big companies are really losing that touch.
Really, that's very interesting. Actually, you say that. So when, from my understanding, the smaller business, like they, when they join with an MSP, like they kind of see it as a bit more of a cost than an investment. Would you agree with that statement? That they kind of think, why have I got to pay for an MSP when I can just do it myself? But obviously, what do you think is the main kind of problem that you solve, or the main thing that you can kind of demonstrate to them when you first join and kind of hit the ground running, if that makes sense?
Yeah, 1000%. They always see it as a cost center. It's always like,
Yeah.
oh, I have to pay extra for cybersecurity. It's like, do I really need this? Obviously, the answer is typically yes, but it's communicating that. And that's the biggest challenge, even that we're seeing kind of straddling this line between those who know about MSPs, they see the value, and we just have to differentiate between other MSPs, which I think we've done a fair job at. Then it's the ones who don't know what this is. They don't know, like I did 3 years ago, that this industry actually existed and that there is value here to be had. And so really, and this has been the last 6 weeks of how do we approach, these small tradespeople who have a small team. They've been operating for 15 years, but their costs could be lower. And so essentially that's where we're coming in, is we can guarantee to lower their total cost of ownership.
Really?
When it comes to the technology portfolio, but broader in business, just because today, like, technology powers your business. There's no question around that, and we can guarantee that. So that kind of breaks down some barriers of, okay, well, how do you do that? And we have, a dozen different value propositions across the board of ways to do that. And, I think too, there's kind of this stigma or misconception about what IT is to kind of most people. Some people think it's websites, it's application development, and obviously the networking stuff. But it does span so much of what a business needs to run and stay productive, performing, and stay protected. So we're kind of changing our messaging and language around that to speak to them and not be intimidating, I guess. Just be approachable and have
Be
that kind
friendly.
of... Sorry?
Be friendly.
Yeah, and almost, yeah, even just like tease them around some of these things, but have it that it's understandable, and they can, yeah, I guess just have that, some threads to pull on of potentially areas with the technology that they're either challenged with, struggling, could find some more opportunities, or just learn what a managed service provider can do, because it is a lot.
100%, I definitely agree with that statement. So, in regards to the actual industry sectors and sizes, so is it solopreneurs, or is it anything under 10 users is kind of what you go for? Is that correct?
That's what we're targeting
Yeah.
out the gate. And so, if you know this industry, like, sales cycles are between 6 to 18 months or longer sometimes, because they're in contracts with their previous provider. And so there's a longer time to value, let's say. Whereas these small businesses, like, they could sign today or next week. And like, again, our strategy is really get them in the door with the essentials that they need for tens of dollars a month to build that trust, build that relationship, and then be there for, oh, I need new hardware, Windows 11, or whatever they kind of need down the road. We're able to start that relationship and start building that with that transparency, that we're coming with, not hiding behind sales processes, or so yeah, I think we're, really looking at those industries that, again, are really underserved for tradespeople, home service based businesses, and I guess the more obscure professional services, like, not necessarily lawyers, accountants, and medical offices, but yeah, again, this, generally 0 to 10, but we can still support up to 100. But I think we're really focused on that underserved community. Yeah, and just getting our name out there.
Absolutely. So you touched on this really good point that the longer the sales cycle, obviously the bigger the client, normally the longer the sales cycle, and obviously MSPs, it's a bit of a pain in the arse really how long the sales cycle is. It's a bit of a known thing. So because the majority of your clients, you're their first MSP. So I was going to ask that: is the sales cycle predominantly quite short, or have you still, or does it still take time to educate them and nurture them from kind of click to close, if that makes sense?
It still takes time. I mean, it's, it is a trust-based relationship that we're trying to build, and
Absolutely.
that doesn't happen over one phone call or one meeting. Um, and a lot of the times too, it's like we're trying to make them aware of future pains that they might have or risk that they don't see right now. And sometimes that just takes their own realization or trigger event that like, oh, this happened, now I need you guys. And maybe over that 3 months that we're in conversation with them, that does happen. So it's not as within a week that we can really turn it around, but
That'd be
um,
nice.
we're getting there.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay then, Alex. So you touched on earlier that kind of your main way to kind of stand out is differentiate Wildcard and yourself apart from other MSPs, managed service providers. How do you do that? What's kind of the thought process behind that? With obviously without revealing too much of your secret sauce, like what is your kind of thought process behind that?
Marketing and branding. A lot of MSPs, they're really poor. Like they look like they're out of the 2000s. They don't have professional materials. They don't really have a brand other than, hey, we're X Solutions or Network, whatever. It's it's not engaging. It's not fun. It's very sterile and dry. And like, okay, here's all of our contracts and like all of this stuff that is uh, overwhelming to say the least. And then as that relates to organic search and like modern marketing, at our competition, there's probably three players in the game who are like they're pretty good, but they're not great.
What in terms of the MSP world or the smaller MSPs? Your direct competitors, do you mean?
No, I'd say the whole MSP world when it comes to SEO and being on the forefront of that. It's been 2 months since we rebranded, and one of our partners yesterday, he's like, "Hey, search for the top 5 MSPs in Edmonton," and we were number 5 on that list after 2 months.
Really? Really? On
Yeah.
what list? Sorry, on
Oh,
Google?
ChatGPT.
On ChatGPT? Interesting. So that's an interesting shift in the market as well, isn't it? Because the whole SEO thing is it's still viable for the moment, but in the future, it's really not going to matter, is it? Because ChatGPT and like the other large language models, people will just research on there. Would you agree?
Yes, so like there's so many new terms for this, but at the end of the day, it's all SEO. It's still search engine optimization. The search engines are changing and it's getting more into AI, but at the end of the day, it's still the same thing. You still need the proper website knowledge essentially to be a thought leader and them coming to you for this information where you can show all these AI tools that you are the expert in these areas, and they're going to start referencing you for this source of truth information. So that's definitely a longer term play. Like it's not necessarily easy to stand up that infrastructure digitally to get to that point. But again, I think with what we've done so far, we're kind of already in the ballpark.
Nice. Okay, interesting. Well, I'd like to talk a little bit about kind of business development and sales and stuff like that, Alex, if that's okay, because obviously that's kind of our expertise. When it comes to signing new clients and kind of generating some business and getting some traction, what is kind of the go-to strategy for you guys? Is it referral based, or have you got other things that you use and like doing?
So Edmonton is interesting in itself because it's a small town, but it's a city, and so you kind of have that very much close knit community aspect. But it's not like Toronto or New York or Vancouver where it's very very competitive and everyone's very selfish and out for themselves. So it is relationship based marketing. So I've been doing business development over the last year, and sometimes like it takes a year for those referrals to kind of come around and there's an opportunity. We have invested in the search and the digital marketing aspect, but again, those are going to take 6 to 12 months to really start to pay off and have some volume with it. So from my end, it's been planting a lot of seeds, getting out there. I've always been a very I guess, good and adept networker. Always enjoy it, meeting new people. So, that has been my focus, and it is starting to come around. I think we added 5 new clients here this month, purely just by those initiatives. The digital marketing hasn't really paid off in that aspect yet, but again, it's a longer term strategy.
Okay, fair enough. And then in regards to the digital marketing, would you mind explaining a little bit more about that in some more detail in terms of like what aspects of digital marketing and stuff that you're actually trying right now?
Yeah, it is more of the organic because it's all about the search intent. And again, this is a challenge with MSPs, especially in the small business, because like the most contacts we've got from our website is vendors, because they're like,
Yeah,
"Hey, you do phishing security awareness training, but can you be a can we sell you our tool for that?" Because they're searching for that. Small
yeah,
business owners are not searching for those terms, so there's over 100 different search terms that we need to be able to capture. Um, when it comes to what small businesses search intent is. Again, if we're moving up mid market into the 20 plus seats, they're probably going to be looking for managed IT service provider. But those smaller ones are not. And so it's kind of understanding that ideal customer, their intent, and being in the top for those results for those keywords, which again we're still kind of working through what
yeah,
their thought process is when they're going to be
yeah.
searching for this.
Just it comes down to just really knowing your customer, that like where they are and what actually is their pain points, and then you can kind of cater your approach to them. So I think you're bang on there. So to flip that question on its head, Alex, is there anything that you've maybe tried beforehand that you got all excited about, thought you was about to win the lottery, and it just didn't really work as well as you wanted it to? I feel like everybody's got something like that, especially in the world of business, that you've put so much time and effort into. You think, oh, I'm onto a winner here, and then it just flops.
I had higher expectations for, I guess, our organic search strategy. I thought we would have more results by now, but that was very optimistic. I know it's like 3 to 6 months as a baseline. I was like, I think with what we're doing, it could be sooner. It hasn't converted yet in terms of sales, but I think the presence, we're definitely getting a lot more traction. We kind of surpassed where we were with the previous brand,
Yeah.
so it's working out. I wouldn't say, yeah, I guess there's any big gotchas. Like we're still very early in the journey, so there's going to be a lot more of these kind of
Of course,
lessons
of
that
course.
are going to humble us.
We like that though, don't we? It's what keeps you up or keeps you on the edge of your seat, isn't it? Yeah, that's interesting. So obviously you guys run quite a lean team, don't you? Obviously I don't know the exact number, but I know it's quite a small team, and you've got a lot of good strategies that essentially you can produce. How do I say this? Produce a lot of output in terms for the input that you've got. What's the main kind of strategies behind that? Are you using any particular tools, or is it just having a great team, or what's your kind of thought process behind that?
It is both of those things. It's the team and the tools, and so you
The
know
tools.
one of the
Yeah,
challenges that because we obviously have all worked for previous MSPs, we saw the good and the bad. And again, maybe this is the bloat. They're just too legacy. They're too big to actually adapt properly. So all these initiatives that we wanted to do, which would improve the bottom line in terms of costs, because we can automate a lot of these processes, we weren't able to do. There was handcuffs everywhere. There was bureaucracy. It was just like you weren't able to actually do this. And so, with this core team of about 12 that we have right now, uh, it's getting the right people who understand this and have seen kind of both sides of it, and can just be open and not have unfettered ability to innovate internally so that we can compete with 12 what other MSPs have 50 people.
interesting. So I'm going to touch on what you've just said there. So obviously you mentioned that some MSPs are a little bit handcuffed, and can you elaborate on that? And you said that some MSPs can't really adopt the tools that they should be. Like, what makes you say that?
I think they're just really big. And again, it's kind of the industry is still kind of accumulating through mergers and acquisitions, which creates it a lot more difficult to make those decisions, to find those pieces to, I guess, automate. So I know it's not outside the industry. Obviously, we're in technology, and they're all looking at what they can do there. but it might just not be necessarily nimble enough or thoughtful enough, because a lot of time when you get that big, the decision making is separated from the work being done, and there's not the feedback mechanisms to actually listen to the employees to inform the strategy. A lot of institutions are like that, where the director level is just so dissociated from what's actually happening on the ground that they're not making the most informed decision for their customers and what the customer wants. And I was talking about this with another prospect the other week of, the customer can see everything clearly. And the problem with the intention behind what they're automating is they're automating the customer experience, which is not what the customer wants. Customer does not want to be interacting with a chatbot. They want to be talking with a human. And so we're really focused on the client experience, making sure that there is that human element always, extremely responsive. And we're going to automate the back end processes that they're not going to see to, I guess, aid in our kind of mission to make IT human, and I guess obviously from the business perspective, really leverage the current ecosystem of what automations can bring.
Interesting. No, that is really interesting. To be fair to you. Oh well, I know that you can't exactly say what tools you're using, but what kind of things are you streamlining and trying to leverage? I mean, we call it like you turn a low leverage task, you just kind of streamline it and automate it on whatever. Is there any task in particular that you guys are wanting to automate or have automated that's kind of changed your life? Or
I wouldn't say so at this point. Again, being so early, we need to run things through manually before we understand what makes sense to automate. But the intention is there.
that's key though, isn't it? Doing it first before you automate it, just so you know and you can monitor it. That is a key. Yeah. Interesting. And following up that question, Alex, is there a particular hire or a particular hire or particular person that you've brought on that's kind of revolutionised how you operate, or in the future, is there a particular job role that you think I can't wait till we've got that person on board?
I don't think so. Like, I think the core team we've had for the last year has understood a portion of the longer term vision, but I don't think a lot of people really see the upside in 3 to 10 years of where we're taking this. Because there's one aspect of the traditional managed services and doing that better, more efficiently, and with a better customer experience and end result, which is ultimately what matters. But there's a second play that no other MSP is really looking at, which is where we're really going to take this to a whole nother level. But yeah, we'll just kind of wait for probably about 2 years until that's kind of at least in a market ready version.
Yeah, that's interesting then. When it comes back to actually the small business owners, so they come in through a like referrals and stuff, or you're outreaching to them. Does it really take a lot of willpower to actually, not willpower, but do you have to really educate them, or are they completely misaligned with what you guys can actually do in regards to providing value and stuff for them?
No, like if they're coming to us, they have the intent and they kind of know what they're looking for, and we can kind of be like, okay, you're here for this, we can also do this, and it's so much easier. It's really the outbound, whether it's cold calls, cold emails, trying to do that lead generation is a lot more challenging.
Yeah, that's probably what I should have asked there. My bad. Yeah, in regards to obviously if they're coming in, they kind of have a need there. But all right, on the outbound then, what is it quite hard to do that, and how have you kind of got around that?
Yes, it's extremely challenging. Like we've got a team of a few salespeople. One has been instrumental in doing just kind of getting on the phones and making the calls. But it's been 6 weeks of refining not the script, but the framework of like how to do this. We actually have a few coaches as well that we meet with who've been really helpful in shaping this and understand like how we can sell without selling, because buyers, like people want to buy, but they don't want to be sold to.
So true. So true. Yeah.
So it's making that experience fun for them, but you know, not being like hey, you're extremely insecure right now and you could lose your business, and doing like this fear mongering. So there's
Yeah.
like this balance there where it's like, you do have risk, we can help you show this, but like, how do you actually do that with business owners who really have no clue about cybersecurity or what domain security really is?
Mm, interesting. Yeah, I think that is absolutely key there. So it's almost sell without selling. I actually really like that. I might use that one myself. In regards, I want to ask a question about metrics, Alex, because obviously there's a lot of CEOs love to focus on metrics and kind of stats and facts, basically. But in my opinion, a lot of them are vanity metrics and like they don't actually matter. So I'd be quite curious to see what metrics you focus on, what metrics you don't really care about. If you wouldn't mind elaborating on that.
Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest vanity metric is annual recurring revenue. That's the big one that is typically how traditional businesses are evaluated and sold on multiples of. But that doesn't tell the picture of, are these clients actually going to stay with you at the end of their contract and renew? That's what matters. And so I'd say, again, it's all about the client experience. What is your average first response time, resolution time for tickets, hold time on the phone? Like, we do 90 seconds before it goes to voicemail. Like, we're not going to have users wait on the phone for 5, 10, an hour. I've seen it for 2 hours they're waiting on the phone. Like, that's unacceptable and ridiculous. And then getting customer feedback. I mean, I'm sure, the NPS scores, CSAT scores are important, but oftentimes they're not necessarily collected, like, more for CSAT, like customer satisfaction scores, are not really collected through every engagement, and have the ability for that feedback in the moment. It's always like, hey, we've worked on this ticket for a month, give us the feedback, and then they're not going to do it if they're pissed off.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's all about having the mechanisms for this at the right time for the customer, that they can be open enough to share that, and then us listening, because that's the biggest thing. Is like, you can have all these aspects in place, but if you're not going to listen to it, then what good
Doesn't matter.
is it? Yeah.
Yeah. And actually listen to it and actually tweak things and actually take on the advice, it is critical. So you mentioned there about multiples and obviously annual recurring revenue. Obviously, you've specifically mentioned to me that you do not want to have an exit to a VC or private equity company. I mean, what's the kind of thought process behind that?
Yeah, I've seen it just ruin companies, ruin culture, ruin how the customer can perceive you, because you just lose that touch and that sense of your team and what your business is here to do, and maybe has done for decades, before this comes in. And they're focused on, like, ticket closes for customers or for technicians, right? So the team is actually working on active strategies to get around that, so that they could bump up their numbers, which is, and again, the separation between the leadership and the boots on the ground, they don't see it, and it's so far removed that it really is a distraction, rather than, I think, just building something that is meaningful, that people want to work at, and people have some motivation. And there's, another piece is respect for the work. We haven't touched on this, but I come from hospitality, so I was a cook for 6 years, and it's the same in restaurants as in even laboratories to this, where your front line is adding all the value to the company to a degree, right? They're doing that, but they're getting paid the absolute least.
Yeah.
And so it's almost disrespectful to pay these people 40, 50,000 a year for picking up the phones and doing most of the work. So we're approaching it from a little bit more of a, not necessarily egalitarian, but just trying to flatten that separation of compensation, to where they're going to be compensated probably better than other companies, definitely the same if not better, but have, again, more incentive to be here, because we also are giving 12% profit sharing with everyone in the company. So there's a little bit of equity, like investment from everybody to improve it. Everyone is also a salesperson in the company, so everyone knows people. Like you were saying, it's all referral network marketing. Even technicians have parents who know business owners, and it's just like these 3 to 4 levels of, I guess, removal from that is where we can really penetrate. And again, those warm referrals, they generally close a lot better because there's that trust that's already pre-built through that.
That's a really interesting. I've never really heard that before. Actually, doing a profit share, because obviously that you need your team to be motivated, don't you? You can't really accomplish anything on your own, and you need to have a bit of fire in them. So that's a really interesting way of doing it. I mean, my next question then is, where do you actually see Wildcard in the next kind of 3 to 5 years? Have you got any goals or visions that you want to accomplish by that point, or?
Yeah, I mean, 3 years definitely very solid across Canada. Have a pretty great presence as one of the top competitors. I think in 3 years we'll probably be in the US, if not other English markets, the UK. Our kind of larger vision is actually getting into Latin America too. My wife, she's Colombian, and I've been there a few times.
Really?
And the actual business environment down there is actually very impressive. Especially like Bogota, like 10 million people. There's a big need for that. So we kind of want to open up a Hispanic Spanish division. My co-founder, he's from Egypt, and so he's out there right now. Even creating some relationships there for how we can help them, because again, just as modern workspace is changing, like most small businesses don't really have offices anymore. There's not a big need for on-premise infrastructure, so we can start to support global enterprises. Again, enterprises is still the small business, but do that in a way that is still profitable, valuable to them, and yeah, I guess that's in the traditional sense where we kind of see ourselves in a few years.
That's interesting. Well, I can't wait to keep an eye on you, to be fair, Alex. I mean, I've really enjoyed this conversation. You've shared some really interesting insights, to be fair. Just for the viewers in the audience, though, Alex, I mean, if they do want to get in touch with you or find some more about Wildcard, I mean, where could they get in touch with you?
You could search AI for Wildcard MSP and get some info.
That'll be good.
But otherwise, yeah, wildcardmsp.ca. Happy for anyone to reach out to me on LinkedIn.
I'll put that down in the description and the comments and stuff, so that's no drama.
Get up. Cool. Yeah.
Well, Alex, it's been an absolute pleasure. I really appreciate you coming on. You've actually spread some really good insights, so I hope everyone found this really valuable.
Thanks, Finn, for leading this conversation. I think you did a great job of kind of shaping it to where we uncovered a few things that we never discussed before.
Okay, yeah. All right, thank you very much, Alex.
Yeah, thank you too.